Welcome to the Walk in Victory podcast, where we sit you at the feet of the masters. My name is Carla, and I'm excited to introduce you to our host NaRon Tillman, recording from the bustling borough of Queens, New York. On this show, we dive deep into the journeys of individuals who have overcome tremendous challenges to achieve their goals. Through their stories, we hope to provide you with inspiration, guidance, and strategies for your own journey towards victory. So get ready to learn from the masters themselves as we explore the triumphs and struggles that make success possible. Let's dive in. And now here's our host, NaRon Tillman.
Good afternoon, good day, good evening. I don't know what time you're listening or where you're listening from. It's your boy, your host, NaRon Tillman, and you are with me for another episode of Walk in Victory. Speaking of victory walks, I'm going to talk about coaching. When I was coming up, I used to watch sports, and I was a huge sports fanatic. I still am. I still root for all the same teams. First of all, I don't root for all the same teams. Growing up where I grew up at, everyone was Yankee and Giant fans. So I started out as a Yankee fan. I started out as a New York Giant fan. And it was through preseason in '84. Never forget it. I would watch the preseason games. Mm-hmm. And the Yankees would always play the Mets right before the regular season would start. And there was this left-hand hitter. He would hold the bat in a really awkward way. And he swayed, Darryl Strawberry swaying that bat. I fell in love with the Mets. First of all, they had different shades of blue and everything like that. I fell in love with the Mets. And at the same time, the Jets were birthing what they called the Sack Exchange. I fell in love with Mark Gastineau. And from that point, from those days, I chose my own team. I wasn't a Yankee fan because everybody else was around me was a Yankee fan. I wasn't a Met fan because everyone else around me was a Giant fan because everyone else around me was a Giant fan. I chose the Mets. I chose the Giants. Horrible choices. I'd say you chose the harder road there with the Mets. You chose the harder road with the Mets. It's the way. 86, the Mets won the World Series. They had a really great team. I thought they was going to win the World Series for the rest of my life. Not long since. But I brought that up to say coaching. You had a first base coach, the head coach, the pitching coach, a third base coach, and the assistant coach. In baseball, you probably have 5 coaches. Do you know right now in baseball, there's probably just as many coaches as there are team members? Because what they started to realize is
specialty individualized.
As we start to individualize coaching, some people have specialty bullpen coaches, catching coaches, everything. All of these things matter. And people don't like the analytics of sports. But what analytics started to do is take a broad view of, can the manager be responsible for the catcher? Doesn't someone need to be with the catcher to show them how to catch? They do it innately, but every athlete may have a block that a coach standing on the sideline is able to see. And you watch that not only in baseball, you watch it in football, where they start to spend more money in coaching than they do. New England is the hotbed of it. The Patriots, as a Jet fan who I hate, started spending more money in coaching. Camera work too, because it was cheating. But that's part of coaching. You ain't cheating, you ain't winning.
Yep. I need game tape.
Game tape. Yeah. Somebody got to watch it. Mm-hmm. And they started to spend more money, and they would coach a player up, trade them for more draft picks so they could get smarter players so that they can coach them up. Because their mindset was, if we can coach a player up past his potential and just give them one formula, one job to do. This is all you got to do. This is all you don't have to be a hero. This is all you got to do. But that comes from coaching. Today,
they took the kicker mentality, or not mentality, but the kind of route we did with kickers. They're a specialty player. You have one job that you come out here to do. Sort of in that way.
Yeah. And they broke the team down into everybody was like a kicker.
Yeah.
And I bring this up today because I'm going to sit us down with one of a specialty coach, Mr. Deshaun Jackson from Michigan, who's going to Detroit. I said Michigan.
That's Flint. Just outside
of Flint. But the reason why I want to say that, because in our lives, regardless of what feats we want to reach, we may need coaching, but you might not only need one coach. Deshaun, welcome to Walk in Victory. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me on. Listeners, thank you for tuning in.
First of all, I work out, but you make me feel like I need to go. When we finish, I'm going to the gym. Tell us a little bit about your story, man.
My name's Deshaun Jackson. I'm a lifestyle coach, but that's been because I've developed a foundation as a registered nurse working at a partial hospitalization program. And I work with youth and adults in mental health. And I've done that for the last few years. And doing that repetitively year after year has given me the ability to work with patients with depression, anxiety, every diagnosis you can imagine, but also their self-limiting beliefs. So I get to teach and admit and work with people with some of the strongest every reason they have tells why they can't, why they won't. And I get to work with mindset training and exercise and nutrition. And it's been amazing. I've used the nursing psych, and previous to that, I was a physical therapy assistant working with patients, new hips, new knees. And I've been working out for the last 10 years, and I've combined these experiences to become a lifestyle coach. Now I say that, and it's also with these victories, they are also juxtaposed by trials and tragedy. So I've been married 3 times and I've been divorced 3 times. And through all this, I've learned that life turns you into a juggler, and you have to get very adept at managing family, life, career, education, and keeping a mindset.
So when we say lifestyle coach, first of all, as a Black man, a Black heterosexual male who's in the RN field, how was that journey? Let's deal with that first, because we see that there's a shortage of RNs. And I don't know if you was privy to this. I think it was wasn't as a retired RN. And we were laughing because they was on YouTube or Facebook or one of those social media platforms where LPNs were saying, "Oh, our job is just as important as an RN." And then until you ask an RN, they're important. Everybody's important. We just talked about that. But come on.
There might be some argument in the nurse community about that statement. I'll say it like that. There might be some disagreement.
Some argument, right? I'll say this, put up your paychecks, right?
There you go.
But when you decided to take that journey into becoming an RN, and I know the journey that it takes, because most people don't even realize that you can be a doctor RN. Like there's levels to RN. There's levels to even RN. When you decided to take that journey, what were you thinking? What was going on with you? Because I think that's a fascinating story.
I'll try to condense this slightly. I was working as a physical therapy assistant for a few years, and I had an experience with a coworker where I was basically told to stay in my lane. And I took that personal. So that was one reason I decided to go back to be a nurse, to expand my scope, because then I'd have the physical therapy assistant and the nursing, and then you couldn't tell me shit. On top of that, also, my godparents made a huge impact in my life. And her failing health as she was dying, one of the push to become a nurse was also the influence that she had in my life. Combining these experiences, and at the time I was also going into my third marriage with my ex-wife, who was a nurse too, had a ton of experience. So all these kind of force shaped my opinion, helped push me into nursing at U of M for my bachelor's degree.
And it's funny, like you're going through, I'm pretty sure when you started, the marriage was healthy, but you have somebody that you can lean on. But now as you're making these strides, because you're talking about being a lifestyle coach, we have to talk about our failures too, right?
Oh, absolutely.
So now you're going through these strides and you make it to the pinnacle to where you set out to be, but something happened where you probably lost sight of the scope of the relationship, communication, what was going on, where you're leveling up in your career, but you still have to deal with the ramifications of.
I can go into that. So we had spent 5 years together as boyfriend, girlfriends. Through them, when we got married, it was 3 years of monogamous marriage. And then the last 2, we decided to open up to the lifestyle. Some people, when I say that, they say, what's the lifestyle, Deshaun? So I'll say, some people say poly, some people say swingers. They throw out multiple definitions. That's what I'm trying to juxtapose. So the last 2 years, in the midst of joy, trial, tribulation, it ultimately probably was the final push for the divorce.
That's funny because and this is not the show. We're going to turn. It's one would think if we open up to the lifestyle, then everything should be great, right? Because there should be no secrets of infidelity. There should be none of those things as a lifestyle coach. And that's why I like the fact that you use the word lifestyle, because you understand that some of our ailments may be because of our lifestyle.
Yeah, absolutely.
So one would think that, man, I'm in a relationship and we get to have these adventures. How can it actually tear down lifestyle?
This is how I intro this. In being exposed to monogamous and lifestyle marriages, this is how I look at it. 1, the institute of marriage in of itself is beautiful. It's amazing. It is an absolute gift. But what messes it up is the people in the marriage, not the institution. So I don't care whether it's a monogamous or the people in the lifestyle. Divorce happens in both because the people can't make it work. So I don't judge people's marriages and how they choose to define it. It's when divorce happens, those 2 people in monogamous couldn't make it work. When divorce happened, those 2 people in the lifestyle couldn't make it work. The marriage as an institution is absolutely beautiful in and of itself. I try not to say that because of the shift into the lifestyle was the demise of the marriage. It very well could have ended had we stayed monogamous. I try not to say that. Because in one comparison I see is in monogamous marriages, they want a ton of truth. We're going to tell each other the truth. We're always going to talk about the truth. But what I find is in all these divorces, somebody's not telling the truth. Somebody's not telling the truth. What I notice is in the lifestyle, there is a little more element of truth because we're going to open up and share and talk about things that previously we don't hide. Or to make it factual, hypothetical marriage, somebody has, they have a certain fetish, but if they're afraid if they say it to their wife or husband, they'll reject them for it. In the lifestyle, we'll encourage that fetish. I understand you. You understand me. So that's how I think of the nuance to the discussion.
So do you think that as a coach, your openness to life in itself, how do you think that helps you when you're dealing with customers and clients who may be hiding themselves? And they're like, oh man, Deshaun, you hit the nail on the head. Can you see it or do you have to hear it? What's your gift?
For me, I think it's a little bit of both. It's definitely a seeing and a hearing because it's authenticity. Are you being authentic to yourself? And your true self has some desires that it might, and can you tell your significant, we're talking about relationships, can you tell them what your thoughts and desires are without fear of judgment? And then if they don't like it, do you stick to what you really feel is you and who you are? So most people I find when it comes to that, there's a level of where I have to deny myself and who I am, or how much I can express to my partner with the things that I'd like to do or express, that struggle people have. So I found more value in being authentic to myself, because if you start lying to you, I know you'll lie to your partner. So
Yeah, exactly. So when you blend that with the physical therapy, and you blend that, and you're watching people who have limiting beliefs, and the doctor may have said you can't overcome this, regardless of whether it's a walking issue, a hip issue, a back issue. How do you start to approach that? Because you're not saying I'm a physical therapist. You're not saying, you're saying I'm a lifestyle coach.
Absolutely.
So it's overall, you look at the overall scope. Do you start with the mind first? Do you start with the physical first? What's your approach?
So for me, I'm going to start with your mind first, because I know your body's not going to do nothing until upstairs tells it has to. And then it has to do it repeatedly over time. So when people come to me with I work in mental health. I see youth and adults come Monday through Friday and tell me their every reason why they can't do it.
Yeah.
So let me make it factual. It's tangible. I hear one of the things people say is, Deshaun, I couldn't get out of bed. I was so depressed. I was so emotional. I couldn't move out of bed. And so I asked them, how does depression keep you physically locked in bed? How does anxiety keep you physically locked in bed? I challenged that at some point when you were laying in bed, you couldn't get out. You used the bathroom. You got up and checked your phone. You got up and got something to eat. It did not, as depression in of itself, physically lock you and move you from that. It's the feeling that you associate with being able to. It's the thought so it's perception. It's all in your perception. The minute I can change your perception, I can get you to do anything. And as far as, let's say the doctor tells you, because you use that example of a limitation, that's fine. I know 100 workarounds around whatever you're telling me is a limitation. And again, I try to make it factual. I have a client that I've worked with. She's never been in the gym before. I told her, we're going to get to a point where you're going to do 100 burpees before your workout. She told me, Deshaun, you're crazy. Never going to happen. She is now doing 50 burpees before she does her workout, as we progressively work up to 100. It can be done, but your mind is telling you can't, and we got to work that out first.
So being that you have the physical therapy background and RN background helps you to understand the body a little bit more, the physical therapy background. And and also working with people who have whatever limiting beliefs that they have for years. What blend, if you were to discuss the type of blend that you had to really imagine and to come up with, and to say that I'm a lifestyle coach, but this is the lifestyle that I'm coaching you towards. How did you come up with that blend?
One, it was done through my own life experiences. But then I think that, to be honest, the catalyst, because I didn't put it together, was when I started following my coach, Wes Watson. And then I started, and again, some of it is knowledge. If you don't have the knowledge to somebody to tell you. So I started listening to him teach about mindset, nutrition, macronutrition, and exercise. And I started to say, Deshaun, you have these backgrounds. Exercise, you've been working with patients. You now work with mental health patients. And when I first graduated, I was teaching coping skills. Oh, you're depressed? Go play a video game. You're depressed? Go for a walk. And then my coach started to teach me mindset training, Deshaun. It's perception. And so I started to teach that at work. And I've seen the night and day difference between teaching, go for a walk, and this is perception. We need to change your mindset.
What made you go from, because you don't have to start your own business. You didn't have to do that. You can stay in that cocoon and get a nice pension at the end of 20 something years. But what made you say, you know what? I'm going to be a difference maker, and I'm going to take this thing to another level, and I'm going to define the odds as an entrepreneur, and I'm going to be this lifestyle coach.
Again, for the influence from my coach that he had on me was phenomenal, was amazing. And it was mindset shift and perception. And then again, some life circumstances, the last divorce, finally putting together the clues of life, taking a step back and looking, saying, you have life experiences. Why can't you be a lifestyle coach? Because the first thing your brain tells you is, you can't do it.
Yeah.
You can't be how can you be a lifestyle coach? Come on. So it was the first thing I had to deal with and then I think, why is your brain telling? Because your brain lies to you and tries to keep you in its comfort zone. So that to me was catalyst. The notification that I couldn't actually told me that I could. I have the experience. I had a coach in my corner. I was using that knowledge to help create a pathway. So absolutely, I can do this. And then I've graduated as a physical therapy assistant in a predominantly Caucasian female-dominated profession where I'm a non-traditional student. I then repeated the practice as a nurse going through COVID at the University of Michigan, Flint, as a non-traditional student in a predominantly female profession, Caucasian, as an African-American male. You can't tell me I can't do this.
No, we can't talk about, because lifestyle is very important and everything that we're discussing is very important. But there's a crisis. You're going through all of this and the mainstream media news doesn't discuss it. No one is really talking about it. I've told you I have a partner that lives in Flint, Michigan. The water crisis and the mental health stuff that's going to happen as a result or has begun to happen as a result. How do you think that's going to affect that area within the next 5, 10 to 15 years? And do we need more coaches like that, like yourself?
There is no shortage of lifestyle coaches that could help and impact this area, especially African-American, male or female. Predominantly, we're in this Flint, Genesee County area. So absolutely. The water crisis, it seems like they've done enough repair on the surface that people now can drink out of their water or tap. The long-term effects to me of this area is trying to reshape and resize since GM left, the water crisis, financial impact. It hits a small city like this huge. So trying to find a new identity, which it's done through colleges, universities, education, medical field. So it's done some reshape, but we could always use a little more money and help in this area. Absolutely.
So your context is not a Flint central context. You're looking, that's why you're podcasting. That's why you're talking to people. Who's your target audience? Who you're impacting? Who you resonate with? And what would be a person's experience with Deshaun Jackson?
Let me start with that target audience, because I've heard that a lot as I'm new still jumping into this field. And so when I first started, I didn't have one. There was no, I was working in mental health with whoever came through the front door. I was meeting people where they were at. So when people asked me initially, what's your target audience? It caught me off guard. I didn't have it. So I've kept that concept and I've modeled that concept. Who comes through the front door? In fact, if I were to say, I want a hypothetical middle-aged man, 30 to 40, making 250,000, living in certain area, region demographics, 2 kids, then I'm excluding all these other people. And it would be different if I had jumped into lifestyle coaching without the nursing mental health background. But because I've come from that, where it's come as you are, then that's my demographic. I work with Caucasian females, African-American males, Asian, across the board in Genesee County. I'd work with them. So I want those that come with the most trials, because their victory, oh my gosh, seeing somebody that struggles, I'm not going to say that the male that's making $250,000, living in a 4-bedroom home, married with 2 kids, isn't struggling. But if I have to scale that against somebody who comes in making $20,000 a year, struggling with mental health, barely getting through, that victory for them, that's phenomenal. So I don't have a demo. I want, come as you are. Let's get you.
And this is why we say we sit you at the feet of the masses, because you're not looking at it from a financial perspective where I can charge X amount of dollars if I'm reaching to these people. You're looking at it from, especially growing up or living in a in a community that has been ravaged and devastated by a water crisis, by all types of other things that extended from the water crisis, and stuff that was happening even before that happened.
Right.
Right. So we don't have the time to say, oh, but I can't think about those people because they can't afford to pay. We have a compassion that yields past that because we do understand the necessity for what it is that we do.
If I were to, again, to look to a certain demographic, and what I'm saying is I'm shooting for those people at the bar and above. You just left out all these people that you could reach that would relate to. Those people are your tribe too. So why do you think that your tribe is here? Because they set a financial bar and above versus the people below you aren't your tribe? I can imagine saying that to somebody.
So what are some of your core principles? What are some of the things that you like to work with a customer, a client who's sitting down with you for the first time? How do you, is it breath work? Is it physical movement? Is it?
First, it's mindset training. We have to get past the self-limiting beliefs. We are going to talk about what they are, discuss them, and then give you some weekly goals and plans, daily habits so we can crush them. Non-negotiable tactics that have to be done. Then we're going to find you an exercise routine that you will stick to, non-negotiable, 5 to 6 days a week. You will have to make the body submit and the mind will follow. After that, we're going to get your macronutrition. We're going to dial it in and get it right. How do you expect to control your future when you can't control what you put in your mouth? It is a disconnect. So once we learn to control you, then you'll be able to affect the situation outside and around you. But my challenge is you can't control you first. So how do you expect to control life circumstances or affect life in a way positively if you're struggling with you?
So let's talk about the nutritional part. And because we often hear, oh, you are what you eat, but it's always like almost in passing. And I often say, if you want to see the most unhealthy diets in the world, go to a Black church during the pastor's anniversary.
Absolutely.
Oh, God bless you, pastor pork chop. Right?
Yes, all in the same breath. We don't even notice we saying it.
So when you're challenging people to assess their diets, how do you help them to overcome because sometimes our taste, how do you help them overcome the desire for taste? Because sometimes our taste, oh, what the food, it doesn't taste right. So what are some of the things that you help them to deal with mentally? Because we all know that the tongue and the mind is connected. So we're looking for those spices, or we may be looking for that salt, or we may be looking for that chitlin juice.
So one, we're going to address, I got to go back. We're going to address that lack of discipline. It's okay. So when we break it down, you don't have an addiction problem. You have a discipline problem. You don't have an eating problem. You have a discipline problem. So we're going to address that self-limit in your lack of discipline. So that's what it is. And first, when we address the discipline, then we can start to address, are there any modifications where we can work around? Are there any sugar-free adjustments that we can make per se? Mediterranean diets based where we can give you some of the things that you like, but maybe it's in moderation, or we have to completely remove it altogether. Because if it does not fit your macronutrition, it does not go in your mouth. It does not fit your diet. Again, you want to reach your goals, it's going to require that inner discipline. I challenge that if you had it already, we wouldn't be having this discussion about how we're trying to work with you to get it right. You wouldn't be talking to me right now. So the reason we're having this discussion is because you lack some of the tools, just like prior to me talking to my coach, I lack some of the tools to try to work around. And the fact of the matter is we can try to adjust, maybe include some because it fits, but if it don't, we kick it out.
When you talk about macronutrition, can you explain to the audience what you mean?
Fats, proteins, carbs. We are going to weigh everything. We are going to measure MyFitnessPal, measure your foods. The fact of the matter is, if you are not measuring and tracking your fats, proteins and carbs, essentials, you're guessing. You're just doing guesswork. And typically, unless you've been disciplined in some type of way, you're going over. You're just eating slightly in excess over and over, days on end, and that's where you gain the weight. It's not by calories in, calories out.
You make it seem so simple, but we know that.
We tend to, I think, complicate it. Let me give one of my examples, and for specifically working with mental health. There's medications in mental health that patients will associate with weight gain. When I take the medication, I gain weight. That statement is incorrect. What happens is it increases your hunger hormones. So that's when we need your discipline to kick in with your diet and what you can eat, because you absolutely could eat more spinach, but you can't eat more donuts. So taking the medication does not make you, taking a pill did not put 10 pounds on you. That's not how it works.
It's a donut.
It's a donut. Yes. Your calories went up, and you're right. It did increase your hunger hormones, but that did not then turn into 10 pounds. There was food involved in between there.
And the process. But people fall in love with the process. That's why I wanted to stick with the eating first, because we're going to talk about the connection between the eating and the mentality or the mental health aspect. But people fall in love with the process of going to the cabinet, of pulling out the donut, of smelling the popcorn, and then putting it into their mouth. Like, we go to a movie theater, they don't load the movie theater up with fruits and vegetables.
There's not a one. It's not a carrot not a carrot in sight. No.
Big sodas.
Yes.
The popcorn, and they're like, oh, you can get
butter. Pour the butter on for you. How many sticks do you want? How many sticks of butter do you want on your popcorn is what they really should ask at the movie theater.
Extra butter. Can I have extra butter?
Right.
Shake it up. And then with the salt. Right?
Yeah.
So put ourselves in these positions when we are working with you, and we put ourselves in these positions where, but most people don't understand that the gut has its own brain.
Absolutely.
And the gut brain, I'm about to date myself. They're saying, feed me, Seymour, feed me. Come up with a whole song and a skit. And we're like, oh, I don't understand why I can't turn this song off. I don't understand why this brain is growing bigger.
And feed it. And then we feed it.
And we feed it. And we feed it. So how do we turn off the soundtrack of that brain, the serendipity of the brain? Because it starts off with that sweet sound, is just a little bit. It ain't gonna hurt your ear.
So I always like to make it practical again, because it always has to be tangible. Because earlier you said you went to the fridge. Why is it in your fridge? You bought it. Why did you buy it? You walked past it in the grocery aisle. Why did you walk past it? Like an alcoholic, do you see them keep alcohol in the fridge? Hell no. They understand they're in recovery. They can't do that. Do you see them go to the bar? Hell no. They're in recovery. They can't do it. But we don't look at food the same way we do as drugs. Why? Food is probably the worst drug. Food is probably worse than alcohol, because how easily it is to be consumed. Because how easy I can go to the grocery store 100 times a day. I think if we looked at it in the same mindset as we did alcohol or hard drugs, it would be a whole different story. So when people say, I think we want to make it harder than what it is. Why'd you buy it? Why is it in your fridge? Why is it in your home? It didn't just magic. It would be one thing if the case was it magically appeared, Deshaun. I opened my fridge and it was there. No, there was a process involved. It went from the grocery store to your house. So when you ask me, how do we do it? There's one step in the process right there. And had we stopped the process initially, then I don't have to worry about how to tell you what to do with you got it in your home. I don't got to tell you to throw it away. Don't buy it. Again, so people want a harder explanation. What prompted you to buy? Nothing actually pulled the money out of your wallet. You pulled the money out of your wallet. You are the biggest hindrance to your. So it's not you want me to tell you, not you, but people want me to tell them it's some outside factor. No, when you stop pulling the money out of your wallet it will stop appearing in your house. We'll stop having the conversation about that particular food. And all of a sudden, now you're in alignment with your goals.
When we talk about the bridge between gut health, the gut brain, and mental health, we understand that there's a real alignment between living in a food desert where stuff is not accessible to us and how the diet choices affect the way that a person thinks, short term, long term, and even past, even in our past. How are you helping as a lifestyle coach people to see that there's a alignment between gut health and psychosomatic?
So one comparison I try to draw is I'll ask them, when you're feeling suicidal, when you're feeling depressed, when it's been weeks on end, what are you eating at the time? Are you eating salads? Did you have one drop of salad? Did you have any rice? Did you have any fruits or vegetables? Because I can almost guarantee your eating patterns were different when you were symptomatic versus when you feel better. And in fact, and make it factual, when we love ourselves, we tend to act in a way to take care of ourselves. When we don't tend to shower, we don't tend to eat well. We tend to eat the pizzas, the burgers that give us a short-term feel good, but then we feel like crap right after. So I try to make it factual to them that this is a cycle that you are going to be in. And then, like you said, your gut is your second brain. So it is a logical step to think that if I feel like crap because life circumstances happened, I ate a pizza, which gave me a bunch of carbs, fat, I didn't feel good. And then now I feel like crap in my intestinal. Well, my brain now, it's a cycle. You're putting yourself into a cycle. I'm assuming maybe you didn't get out of bed. You didn't have the best day. I can see patients point it out. So I really try to stress what you eat definitely affects you. If you were to try to measure macronutrition, measure your food, eat in a proper manner, you're going to notice that you feel better, less toxins in the body. It's a process. We know this. And in fact, not just you, the people, we know this overall and in general. That's why when we feel like crap, tell me the last time you ate properly. You ate a salad.
Growing up in our communities, like I grew up in the city, New York City, and in Michigan, and the areas, we've watched people die because of diet, mental health. And we know that there's a correlation, but they couldn't come up with the discipline, and they may not have had a coach to sit down and say,
That's fair.
Hey man, put down that fork. My mom would say, man, I've had family members die because the doctor said, you just need to drink more water. And they wouldn't drink more water. But now you walk down the street, they're selling free water. And everybody got a bottle in their hand. There's a connection between, if I'm feeling good, like I got a raise on the job and I'm feeling good, that now I have to go out and have this unhealthy
Not an alcohol to celebrate.
Yeah, to celebrate. Yeah, celebrate. Oh, let's go get all of it.
Let's agree saltiest things we can find to celebrate.
How do you help get past those mindsets? And this is not just a African-American thing. This is just an American thing. Unhealthy. My wife is from Trinidad, and she was telling me, she often tells a story about when her grandfather came to visit out America, and he's like, y'all pile on food like y'all dogs. Everything on the same plate. They separated their food, the vegetables was in the plate, their meat was in the, actually measuring.
Yes.
And we piled it on high, right? All you can eat. One of my buddies live in Florida. He said, Dad, all you can eat Kentucky Fried Chicken. Like, what? How much Kentucky Fried Chicken can?
So for me, it's still the same approach. The more, in fact, the way you're wording, when I hear that, I hear a patient or a client giving me resistance. They're just continuing to tell me why they can't, essentially why they can't, why in their head, they can't resist the salt, the sugar in excess. It's one or the other or both in excess, essentially, when you break it down. And for some reason, whether they blame it on genetics, they blame it on, again, when you break it, I'm practical. So I have to be, and now I always tell them I'm very practical. So at what point does the food you can't resist end up from the store to your house? We're going to break the cycle. Because at some point, you are accountable for picking it up and bringing it in. So when you ask me, Deshaun, what can I do? How do I do? You don't. You have to be accountable, period. There's no other explanation. Either you are or you aren't. But there's nothing else that I'm going to tell you that's going to change until you're ready to listen, until your perception is that it's so vital that I change. For example, I want to keep my foot, be it diabetes, whether heart disease. Something has to trigger you to the point, whether it's a poor lifestyle, whether looking in the mirror, your physical is so undesirable to you or your partner, somebody else. Something has to trigger you to the point where you say, I'm tired of looking at my belly hanging over my gut, or I want a better calcium heart score. Whatever that is for you, you have to, for my kids, at the very you want to continue to be unhealthy for your children, you're setting an example. So I can name numerous reasons, but you have to find what it is for you, and then we can work that.
What was your why?
If I showed you pictures of me 11 years ago, there would be no explanation. I was drinking beer daily. There was no mindset. In fact, I just posted something that's funny. You say that on my Instagram, a previous post, a picture of me. I was fat. I was overweight. I didn't have any motivation or goal. If you were to, again, see me 11 years ago, it's night and day difference. So for me, it was just wanting to finally, I'm a Black man in America. If I don't get my health, the odds and averages is that I'm going to encounter something that's going to, so again, my kids, my health, wanting to be, all of that.
It's funny that, first of all, I would never think that you would have been overweight. So I'm glad for your full transparency. And do you find that when you are transparent with your clients, when you sit down and you're saying, look, this is who I was, how does that help them to now resonate? Because people see us for where we are right now. They don't see the struggle, right? And a lot of times we live in a short form content. So people don't want to talk about what they've been through. They only want to show you what they have. And 90% of the time they're lying. But when you're working with someone and you're able to get vulnerable and get intimate with them and show them that this is where you were, how do you think that helps them to define their goal?
Authenticity is relatability. I don't think I can best define it. I followed my coach, Wes Watson, for 4 years before I finally signed up with him. But by the time that I did, he asked me a question. He said, Deshaun, what's my wife's name? What's my kid's name? What's my other kid's name? What's this? What's that? And it was because I knew him. I'd been watching him so long. I was so ingrained. I had known him. So when I become authentic with people, when I relate to them, that's what they see, is they can relate because in some way, shape, or form, my experience speaks to them. So that's why I've always tried to be authentic, talk about what I'm going through. It is not always on high. I've always been and look like this. That's not how people relate. They see me currently and might want to try to get those type of things. But the relation comes to the trial, the tribulation to get you there because they in some way feel that they're at that point or going through something to try to. So I've always tried to, again, I've been overweight. I've had marital issues. I'm not perfect. I've struggled through education and careers. It's in the struggle that people relate, not necessarily the triumph. They want the triumph, but they relate to the struggle.
So a part of your coaching, because again, you're a lifestyle coach, and I love that terminology. It's mandatory that whoever works with you, we got to work on.
Absolutely. There's not my program. I do not believe that you can leave out the 3 pillars of mindset, macronutrition, and exercise. All 3 have to be all encompassing.
Have you fired anyone?
Not yet, but I'm still new. Give me time. Give me time. And I have nothing against that at all. If you're trying that you won't or can't, absolutely. Again, we're a tribe. Either as a collective, we're helping each other. And if you can't bring yourself to help yourself and us as a collective, you got to go.
I like it. I like it. I really appreciate your sharing with the world and the community and taking a step to podcast and to go on and to talk about your personal journey and to talk about what it is that you're doing for people as a lifestyle coach. It's an amazing work, man. It's an amazing work that you're doing. And the vulnerability and the passion is all there. And I really appreciate that. My last question for you, what books are we reading?
So right now I have You Are Not Your Brain by Jeff Schwartz. I highly recommend that. Amazing book. It talks about how the brain has lies, don't believe them, self-limiting beliefs, and Nothing Happens Until Something Happens by Robert Ringer. Both amazing books. You want to be pushed mentally. I highly recommend them.
So I want you all to notice, everyone, that anytime I ask any guest, what books are you reading? Somebody's reading something. No one is. Even if it's a nonfiction, we're like, I'm not really reading nothing heady right now. I just wanted to be in nonfiction mode. But we're always looking to grow. We're always looking to build. And these are people that are coaching, teaching on a high level, but they're still learning and they're still growing. And if you're sitting on your couch with these limiting beliefs, or you're at the movie theater with the tub of popcorn, loading it up with the butter, and what comes with the milk duds. And for me, I cannot go to a movie theater without getting the home. And you said, I can't say that to Deshaun. He might fire me.
No, I was there though. I was a trifecta. I was the pop. I had to get candy and popcorn. So I get it. I like the
nachos.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, that cheese. Like, can I get an extra cheese?
If you want me to tell it real, for me back in the day, you should have just let me have a burger, fries, give me the full meal so I can go in and watch and cut this. Yeah, I get it.
Yeah, you just cut like the mustard. You hide it in your bag. And you be in
That's how mom used to do it back in the day. Yeah.
You be in a row, everybody be like, you hear
it. Unpacking all that stuff. Yeah.
Or you can walk in victory.
Yeah.
Give me your 3 things again.
Mindset, training, exercise, macronutrition.
Mindset, exercise, macronutrition. That's the key to our victory walk. We don't ask you for much, but we do ask that you hit and subscribe so that we can share in the algorithms our podcast and other people may learn about us. Or you could just simply tell somebody else. We don't have no cash apps, Venmos, none of that running through. I'm not asking for anything, but we do want you to be healthy. We do want you to be happy. And we do want you to be a part of our Walk in Victory family. I'm going to say it again. We do have now our YouTube channel. We have a blog post. We have everything and more things coming. And everything is Walk in Victory because that's what we do. Now, Deshaun is a part of the Walk in Victory family, and you are too. Enjoy the rest of your day.
This has been another episode of Walk in Victory podcast, where we sit you at the feet of the masters. We hope you enjoyed today's episode and found inspiration and valuable insights to apply to your own life. If you did, please show us some love by liking and subscribing to the podcast. Your support helps us reach more people and share more stories of triumph over adversity. Until next time, keep walking towards victory. And don't forget to follow us on social media for updates and behind-the-scenes glimpses of our episodes.